Hi, so in celebration of getting this mic, which is a Rode Video Micro, I'm just going to jump into the first episode of my podcast. And today's episode is going to be on my lessons from 2022. So if you have any lessons or reflections that you'd like to share from last year, feel free to just leave them in the comments below and we can all just have a nice discussion and learn from each other. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first lesson is to not believe everything I think, because my thoughts are not a reflection of reality. So I feel this applies to my thoughts and emotions in terms of my thoughts on myself, my thoughts on other people, as well as my moods, my feelings. They are often a part of reality, mostly just that I'm capable of having those thoughts, those moods, or those understandings, but at the same time, it's often not the same as reality. So I'm trying to kind of uncouple my thoughts with reality, and by that I'm hoping to probably have a better emotional intelligence and probably hope to avoid becoming a victim of my own thoughts when they aren't even a reflection of reality in the first place. And hopefully that's going to help me avoid blind spots in the future. So, number 2, the second lesson is that unpredictability is actually a form of emotional manipulation. So, if you are in a connection or a relationship that is filled with unpredictability from the other side, we're talking the person is really nice and then really mean, or really warm and friendly and approachable, and then very cold and distant. It's actually a form of emotional manipulation, whether you realize it or not. And I kind of had to learn this the hard way, because I found out I was kind of in a friendship that was resembling a form of this, so very hot and cold, with reference to Katy Perry's song, but really just not a good place to be in, and it sends very mixed signals for the other side, because it's like, so what do you mean? There's no consistency, there's no commitment. So I'd say that recognize this when this dynamic appears and see if you need to set corresponding boundaries to protect yourself or your mental health. So the third lesson is that life at home can still be good if you assume the perspective of a tourist. And the key is to just maintain a curiosity for your hometown and actively seek out the beauty that is still there. And I feel like this lesson came to me after I got stuck kind of during the COVID pandemic, as we all were. And Hong Kong was especially late in opening back its borders. So I was basically stuck in Hong Kong for 3 years without traveling. And I really love traveling. So the whole time I was just like wallowing in my sadness and pity. When I actually realized that after I took a trip out of Hong Kong and came back, it helped me to kind of experience Hong Kong again from a new perspective. If I saw things from a child or a tourist's perspective, even though that sounds kind of lame, but it's true. So the fourth lesson is don't overwork. I think this just speaks for itself. There's no explanation needed. I feel like in our generation, we place a very huge focus on wellness and mental health, but there is still the expectation from ourselves, from our parents, peers, or our workplace colleagues to just work hard and perform all the time and have good achievements and make money, So it really depends on whether you think it's worth it in the end. Of course, everything is a sacrifice, and in the end you have to choose what regrets you're going to have. But for me, I think my biggest lesson in 2022 and also the past few years is just to not overwork. Lesson number 5 is to be your own best cheerleader. So this was inspired by an interview I watched on Good Morning America with Michelle Obama when she was doing her press tour for her new book. And she talked about a story where she had a family friend or an uncle who would look himself in the mirror every day and say something along the lines of, "You're gonna have a great day, buddy." And I thought that was so powerful because oftentimes we seek validation from others, from friends, from our partner, from our family, from our peers. But in the end, we have to be our own best cheerleader, because if you don't believe in yourself, no matter how many people believe in you, you can still end up sabotaging your own opportunities. So another way of going around this is to write this in your notes app or write this in your journal, just somewhere where it's going to be a constant reminder that you're going to have a great day and you can make it happen. I think some people call this manifesting, and there's also a scientific aspect to this. I think it's called cognitive reinforcement, but it works and it helps you notice the good things in your day, and at the same time you actively try to seek out and go for the good things as well. Lesson number 6, do something that excites you or relaxes you every day. So in order to make me look forward to the next day, I try to plan something that will make me feel excited, such as making plans for trying a new cafe the next day. And this helps because it kind of pushes me forward and encourages me to try something new or try something that will ground me or reset me, regulate me. And I think oftentimes we feel like we're in a rut, and then when these feelings build up for a long time, we make very drastic changes in our lives, sometimes after thinking it through, but sometimes quite impulsively. And I feel like if we actually actively try to do this every day, we won't feel as stuck as we do. Number 7, you deserve good things and good people, despite what you think you deserve. So it kind of took me a month-long trip, to realize that my childhood and my past and my trauma is behind me, and only I can continue to let it control my present and my future. Obviously, not all of us are in the same position, If you need to grieve, if you need to process things, you should. But sometimes with things that have happened a long time ago, and I've been to therapy for it, and I've processed it sufficiently, I feel like I need to remind myself that I'm not in the same situation anymore. I'm not in the same restrictive or hostile situation anymore. And I deserve better things now as an adult. And this runs on to my 8th lesson. Lesson number 8 is to remember my old dreams and goals and where I left off, and to allow myself to rekindle old passions and dreams, to buy good things for myself without feeling guilt or money guilt, to reconnect with my old self or my inner child, and to do things for them like play, therapy, grounding, or journaling exercises. Number 9 is to travel more and make new connections, locally or overseas. I think it's so important and meaningful to me to expand my world and to become more aware of what other people are going through and doing, because often we magnify our own problems and our lives when we're such a small, insignificant part of the universe. It sounds very existentialist all of a sudden, but connecting with other people makes us feel more sociable and connected and happier. And I feel like that's kind of human nature, which is to be social animals instead of people who are behind screens and anonymous and part of the capitalist treadmill and part of a larger statistic, or part of like a cog in a machine, like we often feel like at work, because we are so specialized, and it's not healthy to be living in apartments or to be separated from family, So connect with people is my 9th lesson. And finally, the 10th lesson is to actually do gratitude journaling, or just journaling, period, to find myself. I think it's so powerful when you're able to uncouple the idea of what you think versus what others want you to think or expect you to think. So journaling really helps you to silence those outside voices and differentiate between whether what you think is really what you think, or whether it is just what others tell you to think. And especially in this era filled with distractions, social media, there's new shows coming out all the time, music. It's so easy to just silence our inner voice and to forget who we are, our authentic self. So journaling helps me find myself, I guess. And that's it. Those were the 10 lessons of 2022. Let me know if you have any things to add, if you have any reflections you'd like to share from your year, and we'll talk in the comments. See you in the next one. Thanks for listening.